Oh, that's
All right, good morning. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to get the Washington County Council and a joint meeting with the commissioners. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge and prayer. Councilman Davison will lead us in the pledge, followed by Mr. Fleming with the prayer. You'd all stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pray with me. Most kind and gracious Father in heaven, we approach thy throne of grace the most humble way we know how. We give thee honor and glory, which is so deserving. We ask, Father, that you be with us this morning. Give us clear heads, clear minds, that we can think upon the things which are most important and pressing upon our minds. Be with the leadership, whether it be local, state, national, worldly. Be with those leaders that have the position of making decisions which are either good or not good in reference to their people. Be with us locally, that we can make decisions which are right and proper, first in your sight and then to the side of the people. There are many that have chose to protect us and serve us, and we would like at this time that you remember them, keep them safe in the service that they offer. This is our prayer in Christ's holy name. Amen.
Amen. All right, good morning once again. We want to welcome everyone to the joint meeting here between the County Council and the Commissioners of Washington County here on February 7th, 2026. Let's call the meeting to order. We've got a lot of people in the room today, so I want to remind you, please, don't speak out of turn. Let's keep it orderly. We've got a lot of things to go over, so want to keep it that way throughout the meeting. First off for us this morning, reorganization of the County Council. I'll turn it over to our attorney, Alyssa, and she will get that going for us.
Yes, good morning. So we will start by taking a nomination for the president for the 2026 year for the County Council. Yes.
I nominate Andrew Davison for president.
Second that. Any discussion on that nomination? Any other nominations?
I nominate Mr. Gilbert, president.
Is there a second for that
Second.
nomination?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Who seconded?
I had something I want to say before we vote.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to thank the council for the nomination. I believe this role is about responsibility, not title. We won't always agree,
but we must always put this county first. If chosen as president, I will focus on unity, common sense decisions, and respect for every voice at this table. I'm ready to serve, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Anyone have any other comments or things they would like to say? And then if not, we can entertain a motion.
I move the motions be closed.
I'll second.
Nominations closed. Okay, nominations are closed. We can go ahead and someone can either make a motion on which one to vote on first, which nomination to vote on first.
Doesn't matter. You can do it either way.
Then all those in favor of Andrew serving as the county council president? 3.
And Brad,
And all those in favor as Brad as the county council president? 4. Brad takes the position. We have our new president. Okay,
Congratulations.
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 Real quick, I do want to, Andrew and I have had some over the last few days, and I think us are of the mindset that going forward that we definitely want to do what's best for our taxpayers and for our employees, and this group will work together. We will disagree certain times, but we are going to come together and we're going to do the work that we were elected to do. So, thank you.
Do you want to take over for taking the nominations for vice president?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to call for open the nominations for vice president of council. Nominations.
I'd like to nominate Gerald Fleming for vice president.
Do I have a second for that? I'll second that. Do we have any other nominations for vice president of council? Okay, I'll call for the nominations to be closed. Do I have a second for, or someone make that motion in a second?
So moved.
Second. All right, good. Bubba. So call for a vote.
Yes.
All in favor of Gerald serving as the vice president of the county council, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries. Gerald is elected vice president of the county council. Congratulations, sir. Okay.
Closing the nomination, who was the second?
Todd.
Thank you.
All right. We are ready for public comment. Do we get, Michelle, who do we have in public? Oh, I got the list. Okay. Let's call for Lucy Brenton. Will you please step forward?
For those who don't know me, my name is Lucy Brenton. I was appointed to the Washington County Plan Commission in August. That's the part of our county that handles the zoning. So normally I would talk about solar and alternative housing. That's what I came to talk about this morning. I'll reserve those comments for February 10th at 6:30 p.m. in this room, if you'd like to come and talk about that. However, when I saw this package here this morning, it actually caused great alarm, because I recognize that what is contained in this document is a tale of how taxpayers have been shorted, blank checks have been written on the backs of taxpayers, all of us. And the bill for developer overages is being handed to us as taxpayers. So one of the questions I'm going to ask you here today on the council is, knowing that a loan was probably taken out in order to do this BOT building, about everybody, if you look at this first page, we're talking about the BOT building that's down at 135 and the bypass. And I'm wondering if that loan is going to exist and still be in effect on the backs of my grandchildren as taxpayers. Everything that, if I understand the BOT, and please take notes and ask me afterwards, I've got a little bit of a soliloquy here. My understanding of a BOT agreement is that it is first built, it has to be built to specifications, and that it must come in on the budget promised by the developer, and then we make the decision at the end to pay for the whole thing. So I may be wrong on that. I'm a little bit wrong. I'm a little bit in mystery. What I do know is the BOT agreement that was on the 1st of 2023 by Mr. Marshall to my left was signed only by him, which maybe that makes sense. He was the president of commissioners at the time. The other two commissioners in August of 2023 were Todd Ewan and Rick Roberts. Rick Roberts is no longer on the commission because Tony Cardwell came in as commissioner of District 3, my district. What concerns me is that at the time of the signing, and this is why I use the term blank check, at the time of the signing of the document, exhibits A, C, D, and F, this is all on the first page for you, and including the GMP report were not provided. So Phil Marshall actually signed what I'm going to call a blank check. He signed an agreement without the exhibits that would support the responsibilities of the developer. Now, this was brought up many times. I've been at the commissioner meetings, and if you guys aren't watching these on YouTube, they're now live streamed at Washington County, Indiana YouTube channel. So you don't even have to be here to hear the live stream. And from what I recall, for those commissioner meetings, Tony Cardwell continually brought up, hey, we're missing some documents, we're missing some documents. You'll see on page 2 that District 3 Commissioner, again, that's Tony Cardwell, continually followed up with April Geltmaker, over here to my left in the brown shirt. And she's an attorney, and she finally, looks like she said on June 25th of 2025, so 23, 22 months after all of those exhibits should have been included, April said that I meet with Philip, I got a hard copy of the BOT agreement after reviewing the document, top of page 2 for those of you following along at home. It is lacking several key exhibits. A is blank, should have been a depiction of his project site. Exhibit A is blank. Can we say that again? It's blank. Now, this is going to be very, very important in a minute. So that's the depiction of the project site. C and D totally missing, and exhibit GMP report is blank. All these documents should have been included in the contract before execution of the agreement. So my question is why we're trying to include that, following up to make sure. Now, that exhibit A blank is really important because if you flip to the last page of this document where it says site plan, it says general scoping called for 8.5 acre site per the approved JLM site plan. JLM was the original engineers. The BOT agreement on record now refers to a 7.5 acres. So either that's a clerical error or just an acre from our home. That would be really nice to know. If you flip through here, and I will not bore you all in person at home with reading building, but the short in brevity will make a point. Number 2 on the page, finding of facts, office of building number 1 says HAC, no ERVs, that's the thing that kind of reconditions the air and puts the bad air out the good air in, as specified in the quote, $7,500 total. So this is just building number 1, and we have $7,500 missing just in a couple of air handlers. Then it goes through all the punch out lists. By the way, for those of you at home, my experience in dealing with these types of things is I used to run the largest real estate investing association when I lived up in Indianapolis. I have completed, with my husband, many, many fix and flips. So I am familiar with looking at a project beforehand, making sure that the scope is correct, following up with the budget, making sure that my contractors come in on time and on budget. And typically the agreements that we have in these situations is that if the developer or the builder or my contractor in my case fails to come in, it's on them to pay the overage. It's on them to be the responsible professional person who bids it correctly at first, follows the budget, makes sure that everything is done. And then at the end, maybe I come with a punch list, like a door's out of level or something. So anyway, a lot of this is just punch out list stuff, but some things are really significant. Missing 2 air handlers for $7,500 is significant because those overages are going to come right back on us as taxpayers. They're going to have to say we got a shortfall. They know they got to make these loan payments 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now. They're going to be raising your property taxes, taking money off of your table to feed your children and mine, and maybe even our grandchildren if the loan's long enough. But then we get down to some things that are just, to me, utter incompetence. If you're doing a building that's going to be handling salt and transfer of materials, We actually have no floor drain. This is number 12. No floor drain was installed in the safety supply room for the hot water heater. I don't know about you folks, but I've had my hot water heater leak before. And I have holes in my floor, so it goes out of my crawl space. We're gonna have a situation here where there's no floor drain installed in that safety supply room. We have this now.
Ms. Brenton, thank you for your time. I gave you 6 minutes instead of the standard 3 minutes.
It's
and
not a standard 3 minutes in this meeting, that's for the commissioners meeting.
Well,
There is no standard. So I'm gonna come to my
Your
conclusion.
time is up.
And my conclusion is that the commissioners meetings approve the payments. I wanna know who writes the checks. I wanna know who is responsible for making sure that every step along the way, that things were completed, because in the last commissioners meeting on January 20th, you can all go look it up and listen to it, the commissioners, Marshall and Ewan, voted to give 19.5 acres of county property. Now, Ewan, you said that it was a great deal for us because there was over $400,000 in overages on this contract. And the developer was going to be so nice as to let us swap 19.5 acres of what he referred to as a property that eats hay, that it's sitting there and not giving us any revenue. Now, when we asked Mr. Ewan what that property was going to be used for, he declined to answer, but he claimed that there was going to be $10,000 worth of property tax revenue. So if he says there's $10,000 of property tax revenue, then he has an idea, even though he said he didn't know, he has an idea of what's going to be built there, or he wouldn't have made claims that $10,000 of property tax revenue we expect to receive after of our children and grandchildren's assets and property.
Mr. Miller, you're the next speaker. Will you please come over, please? Right.
While we're on that subject, though, they've been asking me what I've been doing as commissioner. Here's your office copy. Of the report, we hired an engineer to go out there and inspect all that.
Who's we?
Uh,
Who's we? Who's we?
A few of us. They want to pick up, they can, that's their problem. As you can see, I've been working.
Mr. Miller, thank you for your time. Go ahead.
I just wanted to read a brief statement here to the council this morning. Thank you all for being here today and coming together to discuss a very important issue with your county employees. Your county employees, and they should be, in doing some research about the 27th pay, it says in Indiana, hourly pay generally should not be reduced if 27th pay period occurs in 2026 as hourly employees are paid for paid actual hours worked. According to the memorandum that was emailed to department heads recently, the transition can follow one of two methods determined by the county council. One is the redivisor method, or the second is the status quo method. The redivisor method adheres to the approved budget by simply changing the mathematical equation from annual pay divided by 26 to annual pay divided by 27 pays. The status quo method does not adhere to the adapted budget and results in extra pay. I've been working for Washington County Sheriff Department 36 plus years now. Mathematically, there's at least time the payroll anomaly has occurred during my time of employment with Washington County, and I don't recall the county council ever choosing to go with the redivisor method. And I'm confident that this can be verified or denied by the auditor's office how it was handled before in the past. I have heard unofficially that the status quo method could cost the county approximately $300,000 in extra pay. Again, I'm confident that the auditor's office has calculated that and tell you what that dollar amount is to fix this. It has been said that we can't put this on the backs of the taxpayers, and I agree. It has also been said that we have to
be fair to all county employees as well. And I also give you just one example of how this affects county employees. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a deputy's yearly salary, who is considered an hourly employee. A deputy at our sheriff's department right now currently makes $61,864 divided by 26 pay periods, which would normally be what a normal year would have. That hourly rate would be $29.74. And that's also what was approved in the most recent salary ordinance that was passed out to everybody. However, if we divide that yearly salary by 27 pay periods, that drops that hourly rate to $28.64 an hour, which is a difference of $1.10 less on the hour, which also affects the deputy's overtime rate, making less on the hour. Our deputies are also allowed to work overtime when they are off duty on a highway safety grant to help make our roads safer for our citizens. Because the deputy's hourly rate is less as a result of the redivisor method, the deputy will also make less money while working overtime for the highway safety grant. How will this shortage be made up for the deputies or any employee that works overtime in 2020? Or will the employees receive any additional compensation at all? My hopes that you as the county council members will choose to go with the status quo method, and here is my solution to pay the extra pay. Department heads get an email from Michelle at the first of each month from the auditor's office. And I can speak for the department heads, I believe, when I say, thank you, Michelle, for sending out the monthly reports to help the department heads understand where they are with their current yearly budget. The 1st of January, I received my monthly report, which includes 3 columns of numbers. There is a column that shows how much was approved for each line item in the budget for 2025, a line that indicates how much has been spent from each line item in the budget. And then there's also a 3rd column that tells you how much money is left in that line item. According to the January report, which reflects the end of the year numbers for 2025, the Washington County Sheriff's Department returned $194,936.88 to the county general fund for unused salaries and wages. I spoke with the ambulance department, and I also spoke with Judge Larry Medlock about how much money had been returned to their departments to the general fund from unused wages. The number from the 3 departments alone totals more than $330,000 that was returned to the general fund for unused wages and salaries alone. That doesn't include the other money that was returned for other line items within the budgets. I'm confident that the auditor's office can verify my numbers. And I'm also confident that the auditor's office can tell you the total amount of money that was returned to the county general fund from all of the departments from the 2025 budget. In closing, I'm asking each of the Washington County Council members to consider the status quo method. I'm asking you to be fair to the men and women who choose to work for Washington County. I'm asking you to show your county employees that you appreciate them and the work they do for Washington County. When you return home today to your families, I want you to say it was a tough decision to make, but we did what was right and we took care of our county employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, did everyone, oh, sorry.
One thing that I just wanted to suggest for the council, there are lots of people here. There's going to be a lot of things up for discussion. If the council wants to allow additional public comment, my recommendation would be that someone make a motion to reopen public comment. Second, it's voted on. I know sometimes it can be confusing about when people can talk, and so I think that's a more formal procedure we can follow.
I think that's a great idea. Do I have a motion to open public
We're
comment?
I'll make a
closing.
motion, we open it.
Do I have a second?
Hold on, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
We just finished public comment,
Oh, I
but
think
later if
she
you
was
want to
talking
open
Later?
it.
Oh, later? Okay.
After we discuss it, if we.
After discussion. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I think we're good. I think that's a great idea to reopen public comment. Next is approval of meeting minutes from January. Did all the council members read those?
I'll make a motion, we accept this. Give it.
All right, I have a
I
motion.
second it.
Have a second there. All in favor of approving the minutes, right hand. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Now, payroll discussion with Katelyn Shafer from Reedy Financial.
Caitlin, come on down, honey.
Good morning.
Morning.
Nice to meet all of you. So I am Katelyn Shafer. I'm with Reedy Financial Group. We were asked to do kind of a little study about what your salary ordinance looked like at the start of this year and those changes to incorporate that 27 pay. We are the editors of the memo that I believe all of your employees did get. Basically to kind of go through, I won't go through that memo because it sounds like everyone has had plenty of time to go through it, but I do want to touch on a few different pieces. So like the memo says, there are two structures, and those two structures have an impact on the county-wide funds. I am not here to tell you to go one way or the other. I am here to just give you the facts and you guys make that decision, of course. I have no impact on that. I will say the redivisor, which is dividing your total annual pay divided by 26 to change that to 27 pays. You're not losing any pay. It is the same amount annually. Yes, your bi-weekly and your hourly rates do go down. And to the point that the one gentleman made, yes, that does affect overtime. That is one bad side effect of using the redivisor option. And again, I'm just here to tell you the facts, and that is probably the biggest downfall of that option. That's not to say that you cannot do the redivisor and come up with a different type of fee to bridge that gap. I don't know what that looks like for you guys. I don't know what your gap looks like. I did not look at your total funds. I don't know what you have available. I don't know what kind of unappropriated funds you do have from the prior year or on an ongoing basis, of course. But I will say the status quo method, yes, everyone is now getting whatever you decided to give them. I think you guys gave them a 4% increase this year. So they're getting that 4% plus an extra pay. So moving forward next year, if you go with the status quo, you gave them 4%, they're getting an extra pay. What are you going to build off of next year? Are you going to absorb that much in salaries for next year? Or will the employees not anticipate that big of a bump because they're getting such a substantial bump in 2026? Because an extra pay is a lot. So those are kind of the two options. Those are the two downfalls. There are downfalls to both. But of course, there's areas that you can bridge that gap. From my standpoint, that would take me looking into your financials a lot more. I don't know your specific situation. So really, when I looked at the salary ordinance, there was nothing wrong with how it was recalculated. I will say, I think a lot of confusion is, are you an actual hourly employee, or are you what we call the salary non-exempt employees, which means you're basically a salary, but you're still applicable to comp time, overtime, all of that. Most county employees are salaried non-exempt. They're not hourly employees. And I think that miscommunication or misunderstanding may have caused a lot of this back and forth between the county and employees. I do think some edits to the salary ordinance, if they have not already been made, should be made to make sure everyone knows which category they fall in and how that is calculated, and to add language that the next time this happens, this is the way that the county handles it. Now, of course, maybe if you have another council 11 years from now, they'll change that, but at least you have some language in there to back up whatever route you take. This is how the county handles 27 pays. So there are a couple of adjustments I would suggest with your salary ordinance overall, but nothing was calculated incorrectly using the redivisor method.
I have questions. Anybody on council have questions?
If you went to a bi-monthly pay, would that eliminate this going forward?
Yes, you could do bi-monthly pay. To where you're only having 24 pays a year, yes. And you've seen some people do that. Just because this does cause friction if it's not premeditated, if you weren't prepared for it correctly.
I had a question about one thing that you said, that if we stay with the way we're doing it, and then when it comes budget time in August for us, the consideration will be, we'll have to consider next year's budget with the additional pay that we would add, or how we would do that, correct? So
Correct.
that could impact 2027.
You're just going to compound from here on out if you add another pay. So if the difference that was calculated was between 300 and 400,000, that is going to compound next year. Can the county absorb that? I don't know.
One thing that along the lines that I would like to for this council to talk about and have some discussion about, and even when we go back to public comment, maybe get some department head. We would not be. I've gotten feedback about the 2 pays a month, the bi-monthly pay. So I've gotten that feedback. But one thing that I would be interested in and talking, seeing what the auditor's office and the rest of this council would be is what would be the feasibility. We would not be the only county if we outsourced our payroll. So I think that may be a good discussion around this as well. So we're, the possibility of having a company do that, and then we can ensure that everything is being done accurately. I mean, what's the auditor's office position on that? Michelle?
Can't hear you.
Sorry. I'd be fine with that. It's up to the council and commissioners.
Commissioners?
If you outsource it though, they will pay only what you tell them to enter into the system. So they may get shortchanged by not entering what is we owe them.
Well, I mean, that would be the same as when department heads do time cards, then that would be, this company would pay what the department heads turn in that the employees are working.
Well, I think we just need to revamp the system we got.
I think it's something to look at, but we need to see what cost that would come with,
Right.
And of course, the cost is the upfront cost. The monthly costs, in my opinion, are feasible for a municipality because a lot of municipalities are going to outsourcing payroll because it is it's a daunting task with that many employees.
That's why I mentioned that, and I've had department heads that have mentioned that as given an independent set of eyes and everything. And also it also enhances accountability that our employees are being paid accurately. And I think, so that's the reason I thought that was worth a discussion. Anybody have any other questions for Katelyn?
Does Reedy, do you outsource payroll? Do you guys do that from your office?
We do, but we have a very small limit. We will not take on accounting by any means. Our limit is like 50 employees or less.
Gotcha.
Kyra, does the auditor's office have any resources that could reach out and see?
I mean, we can put some feelers out there and see if we can come up with some.
I think that's at least worth researching
Can
and
you guys
seeing.
start using your mics? We can't hear you back here.
Sorry. I asked the auditor's office if they would be willing to reach out to people to see what companies do, the outsourcing and possible costs and things like that.
Yeah,
She said they would. Okay.
And just a couple, not that it's my place, but ADP does really good with integrating with Lao, which I'm assuming you use since you're a county. AccuPay also does a really good job of integrating the pay with time clocks and everything like that. So just a couple to consider.
That's my question.
Any other questions for her?
No, I don't think so.
Well, this is now when we should open up for more public comment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
No.
I did have a question.
I was gonna say, you don't even have to do that. I just know in the past, sometimes there's been a lot of kind of discussion in the crowd. And so to try to avoid that, if that comes up, then I would suggest that you all vote on whether you want to do it or not. We do have the policy of signing up beforehand. So you kind of have to waive that normal rule as well.
I think it would be go ahead and ask your question.
Well, I had a quick question about exactly how about we hired Reedy Financial as a consultant, because I don't remember discussing or voting on that.
As the acting president, I reached out to Reedy because we didn't really have any answers on how to move forward with this. So I
don't think the president can actually make that decision his alone.
That's correct. The president's duties are only to call for a special meeting without council approval. They cannot be spending council money without council approval.
Well, I also run that past Alyssa, you know.
Yeah, I
No disregard, ma'am, to the work that you did.
I just felt like we was a little bit in the dark as far as that goes. I know we got, the report, but if we're spending taxpayer dollars on a consultant, I feel like, it should require a vote. Just my only comment.
I think that there was certainly a time pressure and question about.
I understand, but we
the
could have had a
whole
special
assessment.
meeting.
Yep. And I circulated the statute about how to call a special meeting. The president can call it, or any majority of the council can call a special meeting.
I would like to say that I spoke with Bubba on this, and I was in agreement with him on finding someone because I want it done right. I am
I
by
agree.
no means want anyone to think that we are trying to not do payroll right, or we're trying to screw them out of something, which is what has been accused. I would rather hire a company, someone that knows, to look it over and make sure what we do is correct. So yes, him and I did talk about it, and I'm in agreement with him. I wanted a professional to come in here and look it over and make sure that we pay these people correct.
Anything else around that discussion? Do I have, before we go on to the amended salary ordinance, do I have a motion to reopen the public comment to give folks that are attending this
So
meeting?
moved.
Second.
Okay. All right. Motion. All in favor of that, right hand? All opposed? Unanimous? Do we have anyone in the crowd here that has any questions, would like to talk to us?
So with that being said, so when county employees work overtime and they're getting paid less because of that hourly rate is less, because it's divided by the 27 pay periods, how does that get made up? I'm looking for an explanation from somebody, how they get compensated for that. Just another example, like when the deputies work that highway safety agreement and they're working overtime, they're actually making less on the hour. So how does that get made up to them? or any of the county employees when they work overtime for that matter, how does that difference get made up? If that makes sense, or do I need to word it different?
Yeah. Katelyn, do you want to come back up? So there may be something you can field for us, please?
No, that's fine. I can stay up here while there's some questions. To that question, as I had stated, the overtime is an issue in that area, and it would be up to the county to decide if you would bridge that gap to whatever extent. I don't, again, know what that really looks like to you, but you guys can approve special pays for specific things. It could not be qualified overtime because of the FLSA rules. It could not be overtime because it has to be by their actual hourly rate. But there could be a maneuver that you could bridge that gap. And I apologize, I don't have that exact answer for you guys today.
So it figures up to about 3.8%, if my math is right, on the difference between them. Is there any way we could do that, like at the end of the year? I mean, a cumulative, it'd be hard to do, but it's going to be hard to do on every pay period. But if we did a cumulative, like at the end of the year, I don't know if that's possible or not. I'm just.
I guess my question would be. is
Well, you
there
would
a
still
way
get paid.
to designate
Any accumulated.
a separate overtime rate?
Hang on.
So like this is their hourly rate, can they as a council designate a different overtime rate?
My instinct is no, because of FLSA. That's why I'm saying it would have to be something different. You would have to name it something different. And to your point, if you wanted to try and true up the difference between what they got in overtime, I do think that would be possible, but that might be a clerical nightmare. I don't know how you guys would track that and ensure that the difference was calculated correctly into them. Not to say that you guys couldn't calculate it, but I think they would definitely be watching. So to make sure that it was done correctly, I don't know, it might be a lot to ask.
Brent, did that make sense or answer?
Yeah, it does make sense to me, and I agree that would be a total nightmare for the auditor's office to try to keep calculations on this. And that's why I thought that, and again, my suggestion may not be the best suggestion, but I thought, use the money that was surplus that went back into the general fund to fix things and move on, so we don't have to try to keep calculations and figure this out, because I'm not sure. That's putting an awful lot on somebody that's already got a lot on their plate as it is now, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a comment. So this ordinance that was handed to us today, I'm gonna make a suggestion, because listening to what everyone in the audience is saying and what this lady's saying here from Reedy, we're kind of already halfway there. If you go down to the paragraph where it says hourly employees will receive bi-weekly paychecks based on actual hours worked. I think what would help clarify this and make both sides happy and be less work for the auditor's office would be to add a line in there so that we're not continuing to kick this can down the road, because every 4 or 5 years this is going to come up again. Why don't we just put an addendum in there that states if these hours are from a prior year, they're paid at the old salary, and if they're at the new year, they're paid at the new salary. Then you're not adjusting anyone's wages for the year. You're staying at that 52 weeks. And the days that were worked, even though the pay period may fall in the new calendar year, stay in the old year. I mean, you're halfway there with this paragraph. It just needs to have another couple lines added to it, and then adjust the addendum at the end to reflect back to the 26 pay periods. And then we're not dragging this out for months at a time, and the employees are getting paid their fair hourly rate, and we're not spending oodles of time with the attorney trying to fix one little paragraph. It's just a suggestion.
Are they gonna get paid at their divided rate, or are they gonna get paid at the rate they were supposed to get originally?
The rate they were supposed to get originally, because you would add lines to this paragraph that state that any hours worked, because it already says actual hours worked,
Them,
they would be paid at the rate in which they were for that calendar year.
them,
So
my
that's
question-
where the language needs to be changed in that paragraph. So if they were worked in a prior calendar year, maybe adding a sentence in there that states they're gonna be paid at that calendar year's rate based on whatever budget that was, and then changing it to, I know I sent bullet points to you, Alyssa, and I tried to be clear, but maybe I wasn't
That-
super clear with that, but I apologize.
We-
I wasn't.
I don't think that there's an issue with including that language. The fact is that's only going to impact truly hourly people, not the salary non-exempt folks, which there's not as many of. But Katelyn, I guess that my question goes to you, just as part of typical payroll processing, when someone is hourly and say like this year, their first paycheck falls on January 2nd or whatever the day was early in the year, most of those, this is what Karen's asking about, and Karen, interrupt if I'm explaining it wrong. A lot of those hours were worked in 2025. And so a payroll system can calculate, say, 30 of your hours were worked in 2025 and 10 were in 2026. And so the payroll system can calculate 30 hours at the 2025 hourly rate and then 10 hours at 2026 hourly rate. Is that a typical way of handling hourly employee from a payroll perspective?
I've seen it both ways. I will say, again, though, I think the majority is you get paid on January, if it's January 2nd, you get paid your 2026
Right.
pay. Yeah, your rate. Only, again, to keep it more simple in the software. Again, not saying that you have to. I still see people, however your ordinance is written, like you're saying with the language, however the language is in your ordinance, that's what you have to follow.
So I do think, Karen, and I apologize if that was not included in, it's not clear
Well,
in this draft.
It was meant
Right.
for the non-exempt and the hourly people to have it, because it's still, we've got in there, the bi-weeklies and all that stuff in the paragraph above. I just think those two paragraphs, if we adjust that, then we're fixing it down the road to where we know this is gonna happen again. We just know that when we have those years where we're short or long, nobody feels like they're getting gypped. And in all actuality, the county might be saving some money by paying a little bit less on the hour from that very first paycheck than they were originally when we paid the new rate.
But isn't that only gonna fix the first
That would fix the
paycheck?
first one, but I mean, we're obviously gonna have to fix the ones after that that were paid. But I'm just saying that moving forward, I think it would make it clearer, and we're not continuing to kick the can down the road with the salary ordinance structured the way that it is.
So as it is right now, everyone would get paid. So if you're paid on January 3rd, you would go ahead and get your raise effectively for those hours worked at the end of 2025. And what you're proposing is you don't get your raise.
You stay on that
You stay
old
on that
rate,
old
and
rate.
then you only get your raise for the actual calendar year weeks in a
And
calendar year.
so that's up for, so that's what's being proposed to add into this salary ordinance. We can certainly add that language if we want to handle the payroll that way. Katelyn already spoke to kind of the payroll challenges with that. It's just a little bit more complicated to calculate. Not that it can't be done, but it just needs to be explicit that that's how you're anticipating that to be calculated, and kind of goes back to the benefits of maybe outsourcing payroll potentially if it's financially feasible, because these do get into more complicated kind of payroll calculations.
And I think to clarify what Preston meant by that is when you were talking about the hours going to those companies, you can send them the hourly rate, but if we, as a council, and we approve the wrong hourly rate based on the number of pay periods, we're the ones responsible for sending that new company the rate wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I think he meant by that. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay.
And I think just like having Katelyn here today, the benefit is having someone experienced who's seen it done lots of different ways, being able to not tell you what to do, but offer feedback and suggestions of, yes, what you're proposing is one option, but there's also another option option as well, so the council is fully informed, so we can make those types of decisions, because
I mean, it just needs a few lines added to cover those salary exempt people and the hourly people.
so my question is then, for the salary non-exempt, how does that same calculus work for those individuals? Caitlin, can you do that from a payroll perspective? Because they're not actually paid hourly. So how does what we're proposing impact those people?
Are you saying through payroll or through the salary ordinance?
Well, I
Because the
guess,
salary ordinance is just a max. So if you're going to pay, again, January 2nd, if a majority of those hours are from 2025, they're going to be under their 26 salary ordinance amount.
right,
And that's fine, because again, a salary ordinance is a maximum, it's not a promise. So in that case, your salary ordinance would be fine unless you are wanting it to match. Some people really prefer it to match. But from the processing point, I mean, there's just within the payroll module, you have to add 2 lines instead of 1.
and so if you go this approach of, splitting the year for those few hours that one payroll, that crosses between 2025 and 2026 or whatever years in the future, then those salary non-exempt people will not actually be paid their full salary in 2026. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
But it would continue to roll over. So I mean, you would eventually get 365 days of that pay eventually.
Right, you would get it like, let's say next year, you're gonna have 3 days that roll over into the next calendar year. So you're gonna show 2 line items on that pay stub, one for the 3 days that they worked in the prior year at their old rate, and then the other days are all gonna be at the new rate. So basically, it's no different than an hourly person at that point, more or less, because.
Yes, because they'll have to prorate that
Correct.
annually.
Correct, yes.
But I do just, from my standpoint, I do not consider salary non-exempt hourly. So I do want to just make that point known. But yes,
Yeah,
it would,
it's treated like hourly in this type of
yes,
field.
correct.
In
If
this.
you're going to break up the years and the salaries, it would be treated like that.
What does the state board of accounts recommend?
They recommend you just, if it's January 2nd, you pay 2026 fees, rates, I'm sorry. They're fine with the approach that you're saying, by all means, but to keep it simple, and not convoluted, because there are a lot of times where it does get reported wrong, because there's a lot more room for error if you're adding a line for every single employee. Not to say that would happen here, but it does happen a lot across the state. So the SBOA says you can just pay them 26 starting January 1st, if that's when your pay falls.
That'd be more simple, I think.
That's what we did, but under hourly rate.
Oh.
Because it's queued at your carryover.
That's what we did. Any other questions about that? I had someone in the back raise their hand. Does someone show? Yeah, you want?
I just want to point out, if this doesn't get fixed, I have a part-time employee that couldn't be here today, and she wanted me to advocate for her. Her pay rate went down, and she only works 14 hours a week. We had 2 nurses that were same pay. But how does hers go down in pay rate when she's part-time?
If she's truly part-time, sorry, I can't look at you, but if she's truly part-time, that would be hourly, and her rate would have not gone down. So that would just need to be.
It did, because you've always wanted the nurses paid at the same rate.
But at the same point, we were not in 26.7 pay discrepancy.
I'm just telling you why it was done that way.
It's always been that way, ever since even before me, but again, we were never in the 26.7 pays. I just want to point that out.
For that instance, her pay would not go down. Her hourly rate would be more than, I'm sorry, the nurse that she had mentioned. So I do feel like every single line item needs to be gone through and truly acknowledge who is salary exempt, salary non-exempt, and hourly.
Which is what was in the updated addendum that was circulated as part of this amended salary ordinance. That's, yes, next on our agenda, but kind of part of all of this discussion. So I think it's appropriate to discuss it all now. But on this circulated amended salary ordinance, the new addendum has the classification next to it. And if anyone has questions about that, they can certainly raise it. Although today is more about focusing on the big picture and not each individual employee and whether they feel they've been properly classified.
Okay. Karen, did you know?
Yeah, it looks like the SBOA has a change to, they call it the dreaded 27th pay. It says in years that there are 27 pays, the biweekly pay is not to be lowered as a result of the 27th pay. Salaries or even dollar amounts are more difficult to pay exactly over 26 or 27 pays without needing the first pay to be reconciled for rounding. In the salary ordinance, the SBOA recommends that counties set the salary ordinance for salaried employees at a biweekly amount and hourly employees based on hours worked in the calendar year they were in.
Yeah, and we've gotten feedback before that, like what Mr. Armstrong was saying, that they recommend 2 pays a month. So that would, reconcile that. The other additional with that would be not changing any pay rates would mean that the salary ordinance is passed. We would have to add additional funding to that to not change the pay rates. And I believe that's one of the main questions of what we're talking about today, from what I understand. So thank you for that information. It's good information. We have somebody, Stephanie, good morning.
So when I got the memo that was sent out, I went through it and a couple times to absorb it. Pulled my latest version of the handbook, which is June of 2023, because of the verbiage of non-exempt, exempt. If you go back to the current handbook, I believe that's the latest version that department heads have. We don't have first deputies, chief deputies in departments anymore, except for a few. So those categories, since I've been in the county, we haven't really used. So you're all based on new salary ordinance, and I'm assuming that she was given that handbook based on her memorandum. We did away with first deputies and chief deputies. It's up to the department head to swear in a chief deputy. So I know for sure the clerk's office has not had a chief deputy since 2018. So again, to me, we're muddying the waters as we keep going down the road. I mean, I'm old school. I used to punch in with a paper time card. So my way of when I did payroll years ago before I started with county, if you clock in and out, you're hourly. You accrue benefits based on the actual hours worked. If you're salary like myself, the salary ordinance might say one thing, but the time you put on election, you might make a quarter an hour. So you know that going into a salary position. So we have to communicate. You all said you all want to work together. We all have to work together. We're each a puzzle piece of the county. So when it comes to payroll, we should not be worried we'll get paid or not. Employees. So if you say next week, and then the next communication we got is automated thing from Dr. Delivery on a Thursday evening, how do you have time to prepare? Some of you have been in my office, a crystal ball on my desk, that's a prompt. That's not, I can't really look in there and see when we're gonna get paid. So statutorily, we have obligations as department heads. You think during the pandemic, I want to deal with 3,983 people coming through my office? No, but I was under an order from the Secretary of State to put on an election. We still had court duties to do. So when we talk about fair, I took an oath of office to uphold, and I will take my last breath upholding that office. So what's fair is conducting statutorily what we're obligated to do. And I'm all about outsourcing payroll, because I do not want my deputies, or deputies if I need an emergency at my house, or I need an ambulance for my veteran father, I'm not gonna have to worry about them if they're gonna come or not, because they're gonna do their duties. So we all have to work together. We should not be worried about getting paid, period. And at the right amount. It's not rocket science. If you're hourly, you get paid hourly. Your overtime is based on overtime. You know, like Sheriff Miller said, I would like to keep our highways safe. We all have family members and loved ones. We travel every day on the road. You don't want to keep on getting employees disgruntled over if they're getting paid correctly or not. And this is exactly what State Board of Accounts, Lori Rogers, and Stacey Burns said, going to the 27 pays. It creates a morale issue. And here we are in the pits of a morale issue. And you all have to communicate with us. I'm not saying let everybody know what's going on, but you have to communicate. Hey, we're working on something. What the details? Because for the last meeting, there was no special meeting. We're all in huge hysteria. I understand, but there's still a worry about getting paid. And this is what it is. So please, do not stop at the rock quarry and get a pillow for yourself. Sleep good tonight and make a good decision for all county employees who worked hard to make this government work.
Thank you.
Hey Brad, before you close public comments, the public comments were not limited to just this issue, and I would like the opportunity to come up and continue my public comments.
You okay? Come on up, Lucy.
All right.
Before I hand off, I just have one other thing, because I just think that the concern with overtime is the main factor if you guys decide to do the redivisor. And I do think there is a way that you can make up that difference. I know with the one big beautiful bill this year, that's not, if you're tax exempt for overtime per FLSA, that's a good benefit for anyone who is getting overtime, especially public responders. So I do think that should be looked into, and I think that there is a way that you can at least true up the overtime, and it would make these individuals whole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have one more question for Katelyn before we leave. And don't leave just in case something else comes up. My question, and it's been brought up and I think it can be confusing. So for even people who are salary non-exempt, meaning non-exempt from the overtime requirements of the Fair Labor Standards Act, those people still punch a time clock, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they have to punch a time clock because that's how you calculate overtime.
Correct.
Okay, and so there are people who will punch a time clock that are truly hourly, and also the salary non-exempt people.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I just wanted to clarify.
So that you can track straight time, overtime, comp time, any type of time.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't we just dumb it down and do what the State Board of Accounts says and be done with it? Simple.
I appreciate the time to come back during this second period of public comment because I was unable to ask the questions and get some answers. So Brad, I have to give you both my congratulations and condolences for what you just stepped into. Congratulations on winning. I'm sure you'll regret that at some point.
Is the condolence going to come from because of what you're going to say now, or is it just in general?
I'm a real big believer in First Amendment rights. The Supreme Court says that in order to protect your rights, you must be a belligerent claimant in person, which I am a belligerent claimant in person, and I always demand all of my rights at all times, including the right to time. And that's how the Supreme Court wrote that we should act as citizens. So here I am. I was really concerned about a contract being signed and obligating the county, which is the county taxpayers, for which I am one. This was signed in August of 2023. And in April of 2025, June of 2025, Attorney April was finally able to get some of those, and yet, 2 years later, that Exhibit A was blank. So my first question is, if the site plan called for an 8.5 acre site, and now the agreement on record says 7.5, can you tell me where that acre went?
I would just remind you that public comment is just an opportunity to express your concerns, and it's not a question and answer.
Okay, so you don't have to answer my questions. I'm going to go ahead and read those questions into the record. What concerns me, and as I mentioned, I do have expertise, professional expertise in this area. Prices are not supposed to go up. That's the whole reason you have an RFP, a request for proposal. That's why people give you bids so that you can make an educated decision upon the budget. I mean, even the Bible says that a foolish man starts a project without knowing that they can finish it. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, that's not exactly what was said. So on the last page, after the site plan, we see that number 4 is supposed to be $24,935 to install county supplied stone for the scope, but now it's $45,000. So there's another $20,000 increase on the backs of taxpayers. That is a very real cost that you have to assess against taxpayers and our properties. And our property taxes are already ridiculous. Number 10, there are no security light poles and foundations. Number 11, the erosion control for the project site was priced out at $18,279, but now it's a total of $45,000. So that's a $27,000, $20,000 increase. Now, I don't know about you, but I work for a living, and I can't come along to my boss 2 years later and say, you know what, that work that I was going to do for you and I promised to do 2 years ago, by the way, I need another $50,000. That just doesn't happen. It also really concerns me that there is a lack of professionalism. I'm going to say it's amateur hour. Whoever the developer is, which I don't know who it is, but whoever the developer is has undercut the scope of the work. For example, under aggregate bins, building number 6, you can see that number 4 says upright concrete walls exposed are 12 inches wide and 8.15 feet tall. They're supposed to be 10 foot tall. This is almost a 2 foot difference in height. We're supposed to have 6 ag bins and there's only 5 installed. Why are we being shorted on that? There's another one in here, I don't know if I marked it, but I remember that we have a stem wall that's supposed to be 3 feet tall and it's only 1 foot tall. So that means 30% of the concrete that was scoped out was actually used. Now, I don't know how much concrete is in a building like this, but I do know that if a developer is putting in 30% instead of 100% of the scope, that's a big savings to the developer. The taxpayers are taking a haircut. But probably one of the biggest things that I got on here is the truck lean-to and sign shed building number 3, where we're supposed to have, we now have 24 bays total, and that is 6 bays short. So it's 285 feet and should be 360 feet. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're shorting a building by 75 feet, and now you're coming back and asking for overages, and in addition to asking for overages, you're telling the county that, hey, I know I went over on this, and I know I went over on this, but I'll tell you what, it's worth $400,000, and I see this 19.5 acres over by the airport. And, I'd be happy to take that property off of your hands. And then how much in millions of dollars is that developer likely to make? So one last thing here. On number 3, truck lean-to and sign shed, it says the building was specified to be built 16 inches on center with 2x6s. Well, that would be a stick-built wall. But instead, the developer changed it to 2x8s at 4 feet. And on center for eve walls and 8 feet on center at the end wall. So basically, they swapped out a very expensive lumber package at 16 inches on center for a big cost saving. So we're getting cheated as the taxpayer. Instead of getting that stick-built building, instead we're getting a pole barn framing. Now that is another huge haircut. So I'm really curious how the taxpayer is taking so many haircuts. We're taking a 70% haircut on some of the concrete. We're taking a 75-foot long haircut. Bays are not being built. Scoping is supposed to be 10 feet wide for these, 10 feet tall for these bins. I imagine that makes a big difference when you're using an excavator or a skid steer, having that extra or so. The concrete pad outside of the building on building number 4 was supposed to be 100 feet by 80 feet, which is 80,000 square feet. And it was built 126 by 60, 6 times 6, so that looks like 7,560. That's a few hundred square feet short of concrete times however thick that foundation is supposed to be. So I can see that you're getting frustrated with me.
No, I'm not getting frustrated at all. I'm just trying to process and see where we go and wrap this up with.
Okay, so here's where we wrap it up.
Well, not wrap it up. My question would be,
Yes.
Is there a way that you can concisely ask all of these questions and send it to the commissioners and the attorney?
Well, I'll be there tomorrow morning to take my 3 minutes because unlike you, who are gracious enough to let people speak their piece, the commissioners, when things got difficult last January over the comprehensive plan where they wanted to outlaw people having houses of worship and consider that a home-based business, for which you would have to ask permission. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't ask permission when I pray for, to God in my own home. Even if I invite neighbors over, you're not calling me a house of worship and making it illegal. That's the Constitution. Anyway, yes, I would be happy to put this in writing. If I put this in writing with my questions, can you promise me that you will make sure that my questions become part of the official public record when I send them over, so that in the future, because we have a problem people aren't recognizing here, on the YouTube channel, people can't see this. And so on the YouTube channel, with every public comment or whatever, you should have links to the documents that are presented, both the documents that you have and I have. Those should be listed either on the county website or they should be listed, I would say, as well on the YouTube channel. So, what it all boils down to is that this council has put out a request for something to be built, and the county is being defrauded by whoever the developer is. And I don't see, this is what distresses me, I don't see anybody who has stood up in this council and said, you know what, Lucy, love you, girl, but you're wrong. Here's the documentation. Here's where we made sure every step of the way, which I do on my projects, you only get a portion of the pay as you do each drawing complete a certain amount of work. But my understanding on these BOT facilities is that the developer has to be strong enough and well-funded enough that they can fund the entire thing. And then we come in at the end and we compare the scope of work to what was actually done. So my problem with this whole thing is we should not be in the position as taxpayers of buying a building or all of this stuff that was not completed to scope, where we have steel drains, where there are drains. There's so many pads that didn't get the drains, but where we have steel instead of cast iron, because this is a facility with a lot of salt. That salt's gonna eat away the drains. What kind of maintenance problem are we setting up for 3, 5, 10, 20 years down the road? So at no point does it seem like there was oversight from this council, from somebody who was on point. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Was there somebody on point who made sure that the scope was followed? And I also understand that the developer has also received payment. Now that's a little bit speculative on my part because I'm trying to make the connection between what was said at the commissioners' meetings when they voted on making payments, and I'm assuming that those are the payments that were passed and authorized, and I'm guessing that the auditor would be the one responsible for actually striking the check. So if the auditor would like to put something into the record about where those payments went, that would be great too.
If you'll get all of those questions to the commissioner, and you're more than welcome to copy the council on that if you want.
Will that be put into the official public record accessible by the general public?
What do you, the questions that you send?
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Very good. And will this
yes.
document that was passed out today also be included in the public record?
Yes.
Awesome. I'll give you my spreadsheet. Thank you.
Okay, have a great day. All right. Any other public comment questions? Go ahead.
Okay, I'm not a department head. I know some stuff. After listening to her, it kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth as a county employee. Like, we have money going to where, but we can't pay our employees. So that's an issue. Like, for me, I've been here 6 years, and I want to get paid what I earn, what I deserve. The second part is, God forbid, I may not understand this. So if you're saying overtime employees, right, the officers, county, highway department guys, if they are working overtime, they're gonna get reimbursed at the end of the year. That's one of the plans, that we've discussed. God forbid, what happens if one of them officers or the highway gentleman that just wrecked his truck doesn't make it to the end of the year? Is somebody gonna go back and calculate how much overtime he should have been paid at the appropriate rate that he should have gotten? That's all I need to say. Just some food for thought.
All right, thank you. Anybody? Go ahead.
So my question is, if we outsource.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, my question is, if we outsource payroll, which I'm not against, but are we already paying someone to do payroll? Are you gonna eliminate that position? How do we afford to double pay for the same work?
That's a good question, and that would be
Somebody
Yeah.
will discuss.
something that would be
say,
discussed.
Yeah, I think that if, to the extent that decision is made, it would be at another meeting, there would be a proposal, there would be a discussion about the cost and how all of that would be allocated.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions before we head into the amended salary ordinance?
I should probably stay quiet, but I don't have the capability. On the hour, why can't we just make everybody hourly like the highway department? Because just so everybody knows why I'm so quiet, this doesn't affect the highway department. I feel for you. Our guys are getting paid perfectly normal. We're true hourly. I don't care how many pays they earn. It doesn't matter to us. So what's the downfall of making them like us? Is there? I mean, maybe there is. I don't know. Like, I feel for them. It doesn't affect us.
I don't know the history of how people have been classified. I think that, and maybe Katelyn can speak to why the classifications are handled certain ways. She certainly wouldn't know the history for the county, but I think that it probably, and I'm assuming here, stems in part from budgeting purposes. Easier to budget by saying these people are going to get X amount of salary. Now you still have to account for overtime. You all also budget for overtime. You know, all of it goes into a bigger budgeting and planning picture. But I don't know under the actual, Fair Labor Standards Act or other labor and wage, if there are requirements where you have to categorize person one way or the other. I mean, there certainly is about whether they're eligible for overtime, but the salary non-exempt versus hourly.
So looking at, it looks like the county highway, and then, am I wrong? EMS, is EMS hourly?
Yes.
Where's the, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, there you are. So it's basically, the biggest one that we're leaving out probably is the highway department, the sheriff's department and the detention center is the ones.
I just want to point out, on our payroll stuff, it says our salary group is hourly.
Yeah, so yours really should not have changed in
Ours
an hourly rate, I don't think.
Anytime you divide that too,
That's
there's more,
that's the way it comes out.
dividing it from 26 to 27, it did divide it down.
Yeah.
I mean, even.
Well, I'm just talking overtime right now, because we're talking two different things, but on the overtime, the sheriff's department is the one that's going to get hurt the worst on overtime because you're not an hourly group. So that's where one of the biggest shortfalls, where the highway department, EMS, you guys are hourly, your overtime not going to get affected, correct? Okay.
I think that's where a lot of the confusion has come in, that salary non-exempt, which are eligible for overtime, there has to be an hourly rate attached to that to be able to compensate. So I think that's where some employees that are salary non-exempt are confusing themselves with true hourly, that it doesn't. 27 pays, 26, 55 pays. What?
When we got hired in, we were told we were hourly, so how do we change it now?
With everybody's offer of employment when they signed in with the county.
Yeah, and again,
So that would be.
I think that Katelyn, feel free to chime in, but I would also say that the goal for the council today is to pass the amended salary ordinance to set a general rule. And if people have individual questions, discrepancies, they can be taken up with department heads, that can be handled outside of this. But the council's job is not to sit here today and go through line by line every single person, determine if you're properly classified, determine if every pay you've ever received is proper. That's just not, we don't have the capacity to do that for each person, and it's not what your role for today is.
So for clarification though, at budget time, we can look at how the employees are classified. If we feel like as a council that we would change that from.
Yes.
For clarification, that salary non-exempt, we could change to hourly if that's what the council decided to do. Is that correct?
Yes, you can decide that.
Okay.
And so I'm sorry, I wanted to come back down here because I want to make sure if one thing that I did not ask for is everyone's employment agreement, because that's not I'm not privy to that information. If they were hired in and it says hourly, then I think to fix this, especially for your specific county, is to get rid of all of these columns. So if you're gonna classify them as hourly, they're only gonna have an hourly rate on here. If they are truly salaried, they're only gonna have a salary on here. No more giving everyone the option of having annual, biweekly, and hourly, because it's very confusing.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, and that is what is in your amended version. So the amended salary ordinance that has been circulated said that true hourly individuals on the payroll addendum, they're listed as an hourly rate only to try to eliminate some of that confusion, except for some positions have a range, because that department head has the authority to hire people, pay an hourly rate within a particular range. So all the council does is approve a lump sum amount. This much could go towards paying hourly employees, and then it's handled that way. So there are a couple hourly positions where there's a lump sum amount listed for that purpose, but for the individual roles, there's just the hourly amount listed.
And it does bring a little bit of concern if the street department is saying that they're unaffected, then something's not being processed correctly, because they truly should be affected. And I don't want to call that out to that gentleman, but everyone should be treated the same. Street would be considered salary non-exempt, not hourly.
But how we have it there, hourly.
To be honest, the street gets a little different because you lump everyone, because you do it by line item, rather than like individuals in the other sections. I'm not sure if all of them are done like that, but street gets lumped, so I don't know if maybe it did not get allocated to them correctly, and they are with the old rate and not the new rate. But that would need to be reconciled as well, because if they're getting the old rate before the 27th, then everyone needs to get the old rate, or vice versa. Just wanted to bring that up, because that does bring some concern if you have certain people getting paid one way and others, not.
Even between departments?
Do what?
Even different departments?
We're all the same people. It doesn't matter if it's a department or not.
I'm not sure if I understand your question. I mean, I know some people work 35 hours in a week, some people work 40 hours a week, but it would still be for salary non-exempt, their total amount.
They're not classified as salary non-exempt. They're classified as hourly. That's where the confusion is.
So they are true hourly.
They're classified hourly. Yes, they're true
So why
hourly.
did they get, okay.
It's the salary non-exempt that are seeing a pay rate, an hourly rate on there that's caused the confusion. Well, actually, yeah, I understand what you're talking about. But I'm saying I've had county employees that are salary non-exempt, and they're seeing that the confusion, the ones I've talked to, that's where the confusion is coming in. I understand we need to update the handbook. But what I'm saying is salary non-exempt county employees have talked to me, and they're asking why there's a rate that is not what they're thinking. They are truly classified as salary non-exempt, and that confusion is coming in. So, and there's a lot of confusion around that. I'm just saying that is one of the differences. But they mentioned Rick's department. They're classified as hourly. This county employee is classified as salary non-exempt, and they're wondering why they're seeing an hourly rate. That was the clarification for that.
We're all budget hearings, 24 to 25, you all wiped out the first deputies in departments,
Okay.
or chief deputies. So why can't we just really dumb it down, and if you're clocking in and out, you're hourly. If you're elected official or a salary position, you're salary.
And I think we can do that at budget time,
You don't accrue
right?
any time.
We can, that's something,
More or less suggested.
and that's Karen suggested that, and that's what we can do at budget time. So I think that's a good consideration.
Caitlin, do you have other comments on the idea of just eliminating, moving forward, the salary non-exempt category.
That's fine. However you guys decide to do it, it just needs to be across the board so that you don't have departments that are not being treated the same. I understand there are certain differences in different categories. And I understand you're saying during budget time, you'll fix that.
Can we
But
do
just
that now?
consider how,
Can we do
that's kind
that
of
now?
where I was going. So to fix the problem right now, you need a complete restructure, to be honest. And I know that not everyone's gonna be happy with that, because again, you're going to go over your budget. But maybe you guys can agree on a $200,000 increase to this year's budget rather than 400. I'm just saying, there's different options that you guys could potentially work out to at least get on the right track. Everyone, this is your hourly rate. It's not what it would have been, but considering our situation, just something to think about.
I think we just need salary hour.
If that's what would work for your county, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know a total dollar figure for?
Do I have a motion to close the second round of public comments? Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor, right hand? All opposed?
Chris is trying to follow along.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris, I'm sorry.
Well, just very, very briefly. And I know, the overtime, to get the overtime correct is really important. I know I've worked for both county highway and sheriff's department, and I have worked 3 shifts back to back because we couldn't be relieved for some reason. I know it's very important, but also I wanted to mention that we need to have some method to make a person whole if they do not finish out the year for another reason, or if it's an injury, if it's a retirement, or if they just find another job that they prefer. Do we have a method to make those folks whole, money that they're not getting on their check every 2 weeks?
Okay, I appreciate the comment. We'll make sure that that's part of the record. Yeah, that's something that we'll have to consider. Okay, so now let's, I'm into salary ordinance. We're ready for that. So, anybody on the council have any input?
Before you do that, did you take a vote to close the public comments?
It was unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a draft, but there's been a lot of discussion today. So I think before we dive into the actual addendum, which we may want to change based upon some of the discussion today, let's address the point that Karen raised, and we might even want to vote on separately just for clarification. So Karen, what has historically been done is that your first paycheck in 2026 is based upon whatever pay rate you've been approved for 2026. What Karen is proposing is that if you worked hours in 2025, you're paid at the 2025 pay rate. So when that pay period spans a year, that one paycheck, part of it will be paid at a lower pay rate, part of it will be paid at your higher pay rate. From a payroll perspective, a little bit more complicated, but it makes sense. Either way, Katelyn already spoke to that. She said SBOA allows you to do it either way. So the way that we're doing it is fine. But if you want to pay people part lower pay rate and part of paycheck at a higher pay rate, we can put that in here. If you don't want to do that, then we should add language that says your first paycheck of 2026 will be based upon whatever pay rate you were approved for 2026. It's up to this council to decide.
And I think for simplicity reasons, we just treat it in this ordinance, whatever I just stated there, treat the salary non-exempt the same as you would hourly without having to change the language in it for right now, because if they're wanting to change all of this at budget time and then change the handbook, I don't see, and correct me if I'm wrong because you're the attorney, but I don't see where that would create a huge issue as long as the paragraph language states that salary exempt will be paid the same as hourly based on the hours that they worked during the calendar year that they worked them in at the rate covered by that said calendar year.
So I think that
way you're not you're keeping it kind of the way it is now with the language of what you're calling those people, giving us time to fix the handbook and then addressing that part of the issue and just getting rid of salary exempt at the next budget hearing altogether and calling it hourly. You're not changing as many spots within here because this is, salary exempt is mentioned in several different lines in this ordinance. For simplicity's sake.
Yeah, I think we need to know if people want to make that change at all
Yeah.
first.
But I'm just stating that's kind of what I meant by that, so. You
And
don't
it's
have
not
to change
that-
the title of their position, so to speak, and yet that can be done down the road, but we can at least fix the hourly issue at which they're paid by adding that language in.
And that would fix it now, right?
Right, without changing them, their title as a salary exempt employee or as an hourly employee. You know, we're just changing the rate at which they're getting paid, because right now, this rate is still reflective of 27 pay weeks. 27 paychecks at a 54-week calendar year, which a 54-week doesn't exist, so. We would have to go back and put the original addendum A back to this, so.
Michelle, you had.
I'm gonna give my opinion.
That's fine.
I've given it before, and I'm gonna say it again. My vote is to pay them like the 26 pay, classify them all as hourly, and be done with it.
Yes.
I think that was solid. What I've been saying. I just couldn't get it out.
I mean, we don't need to make our employee retention problem any worse than what it already is.
We need to keep everybody around. You know, we train these officers and we send them to the academy 18 weeks. And then we get them about a year they're going somewhere else. And we need to retain them. And everybody else.
Excuse me, how would that affect what you decided last August as far as the budget is concerned? Does anybody know?
But we've got it. It was given back to us by Brent and Judge and.
So there would have to be additional appropriations made, because you did not budget for that salary, those salary expenses. And so that would be something that the council would have to do moving forward, because to get through the end of the year, you haven't agreed on the money that would be necessary to pay those salaries, to pay an extra paycheck. You didn't budget for that, and you can certainly do an additional appropriation for that, but it will throw off your entire budget for 2026. And then the other consideration, which is what Katelyn had mentioned before, so if you make $50,000 plus an extra paycheck, whatever that comes out to, I'm just making up numbers.
Do you know what that
52,000.
figure is?
But if you're an hourly employee, it would not change that, because we're gonna give them a pay raise based on their hourly rate.
Right.
And that line item is gonna be completely gone, except for us for a budgetary standpoint going forward. That $50,000 or whatever that lump sum of their hours times their hourly rate. That will only be on our end for budget purposes. They will get a pay raise based on their hourly rate.
Okay.
Or on their salary.
So it's just.
Everyone else will be hourly. It's gonna be salary or it's gonna be hourly.
Right.
Right.
Eliminate the confusion.
Yeah.
So then it will cost in.
The hourly, the straight hourly shouldn't have an impact, because those people are gonna work the same amount of hours in a year regardless, right? And so the impact is on the true salary folks. So if you don't divide by 27, those people who were approved for $50,000 a year will actually make more than $50,000 a year, because their pay.
As far as paychecks in a
Yes.
year, technically you will.
We're talking about salary. We're not talking about.
Yes.
It's because
True.
from a budget standpoint,
Yes.
because we paid on January 2nd, the majority of that payroll from that time period should have actually been charged to the
2025.
Sorry. But the majority of that pay period was
That
from
whole pay period
2025.
was 2025.
It's from 2025. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But it gets charged to the 26 budget because that's when we write the check. That's where the confusion, I think, is from getting paid and when you're working to budget standpoint. So it's not personal. We're just looking at the budget side of it. I'm not trying to short you. And I think by going hourly, it's going to make this a lot clearer. And like I said, as long as we do that on an hourly, it won't hurt us budget-wise going forward next year, hopefully. It's going to hit us on the 27-year periods, but not on the 26 pay periods.
By clarifying, getting rid of salary non-exempt will be
Is
a
that
win.
something that the council is wanting to do now?
Yes.
We have
Yes.
to make up
Well, we
this
want to,
year's budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever it takes to make it up.
I think the question is from multiple council members, can we change that now or do we have to wait till budget time?
So and this goes back to Katelyn, I don't know that there's any reason why they can't change that now as part of the salary ordinance, because that's where the designation is classified.
That is correct. You can
Right.
change the salary ordinance at any time.
Okay, that's what we thought.
And so this draft that you have circulated will need to be revised again,
Right.
which is fine. But I think that we can talk through in detail what that will look like. You can take a vote on that and we can circulate the red line for everyone to see. And if there's any confusion or question before everyone signs it, we'll get this circulated with all the updates. And if there's any question or confusion, don't sign it. We'll bring it back to the meeting again. Okay, so it sounds like, can I have your pen? I'm gonna mark this up while we're going.
This one ran out of ink.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So, council members, you have this amended salary ordinance in front of you. It says that from December 14th, 2025 through December 26th, 2026, people will be designated as salary exempt, salary non-exempt, hourly. And so you want to remove the salary non-exempt. So everyone will be salary exempt or hourly.
Yes.
Okay, we're taking that out. Addendum A to the salary ordinance details the annual or hourly compensation to be paid to each county employee. Next paragraph. Salary employees exempt, and we'll take out non-exempt because we're not going to have that, will receive biweekly paychecks during each pay period of 2026 with the total biweekly paychecks totaling the annual salary listed in Addendum A. That means their paychecks will total whatever annual salary you all approve in this addendum. That would mean dividing by 27. If you do not want to do that, this is the language that needs to be changed.
This is the part I was referring to. So
And this is for truly salary exempt, not eligible for overtime. Folks, we're talking about alone right now.
Salary only
Yes,
Salary only.
would be at the rate we approved.
at the rate you approved.
Just divided by 27 days.
Correct.
I think to go back to what Michelle said, you need to probably change this to 26 and state that there needs to be some sort of language that when there is a paycheck that's paid by the prior year, that it means an additional or it means it's paid at the prior year rate.
So we can't say there's 26 pay periods because there aren't. And so I think what you would have, the language you would have to approve is the language that Katelyn provided in her memo about whether the county is just going to, when there are 27 days, we can put this in here, on years where there are 27 pays, people will continue to be paid at the same pay rate as 26 and receive an extra paycheck for that year.
If their salary would equal their hourly rate times 27.
These
versus
people do not have
26.
hourly rates, the folks I'm talking about right now.
So if this council wants to pay everyone an extra paycheck to make their total annual amount more, you could do that, but that needs to be said in this sentence. You need to clarify this first sentence.
I just have a question on that real quick, because most of the salary is elected officials. What is that code or whatever that? Right. So that would even have to stay. Yeah. So then, now, before we move on, is there anybody out there in the audience that's salary that's not an elected official?
Not in, like, what we call salary. We will have to, I think it's gonna be easier for us to do that on this end, because of course there are people not even here, not able to speak up, so I don't wanna just pull the crowd, because we wanna make sure.
I don't wanna short anybody.
Right, and so I don't think that my recommendation, not even make an exception that all of the straight salary people need to be treated the same way.
I agree on that. Just because, so you have salary exempt, right? Instead of taking them and splitting them 26 or 27, since they get the same pay for that year, there is no overtime, the same, why do you make them 5 monthly pays?
That's something that we will address at budget if we change the pay table for the
Okay, so we're leaving this first sentence. Then the next sentence, the salary exempt employees have only an annual salary and biweekly pay listed on addendum A. That stays the same. For non-exempt employees, this last sentence about how we're addressing salary non-exempt employees. Hourly employees will receive biweekly paychecks based upon actual hours worked during that pay period. Hourly employees have an hourly pay rate listed on addendum A. The total annual amounts allocated for certain hourly positions are also listed on it. That sentence referring to look at the addendum A. At the very last page of that addendum, this is just the park non-reverting funds, the maintenance groundskeeper. You can see $117,000 allocated. $117,000 allocated, and it says that the hourly rate is supposed to be $8.21 hours, because that is left discretion on. So that still has an annual compensation, but clearly no one's taking all of that. So I think that is all accurate. What's not in here, which is what Karen raised, that we need to add a sentence or two, is, do you want to pay 2026 paycheck at 20? We know that what Karen's voted, I think. We need to
go either way, as long as they get paid for the actual hours that they work. That's the biggest thing. So,
does someone want to either
I'll make a motion.
make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion, we go 2026.
Hold on. It's not about the pay periods. We're talking about whether your first paycheck in 2026 is paid on 2026 approved pay, or if it's split up where part of the hours worked in 2025 are still paid in 2025. So someone can make a motion. The motion would be either we approve that all pay will be paid. Pay checks issued in 2026 will be paid at the 2026 approved rates. You can vote that up or down, but that's the type of.
Maybe the language needs to say paid at the 2026 rates based on a 52-week calendar year, no matter the number of paychecks for the 26 or 27.
No, this is just a timing question. So it shouldn't matter how many weeks or how many pay periods. This is just strictly that first paycheck that we're talking about for the year. And this is.
Right, yeah, I know. It's just a matter of whether or not people wanted to pay the 26 rate or if you want to pay the 25 rate.
One thing I go back to is, Caitlin, thank you. She just said that SBOA said that there was more favorable errors made by splitting it this way.
Yes.
Would raise a lot of questions. Whether it be the other or either. I'm all about simplicity. I say we get the paycheck in 26 seconds. I agree with that. Redefining that to hourly employees, then if they work 5 days in 2025, let's pay them in 2026, pay them at the higher rate. I think that's the right thing. I'm going to want to say 2026 rate. Vote for all in favor of that motion. All opposed?
Now, on that language. So I did not make any changes to the prior, well, there was one just change. There's discussion, of course, of longevity pay and things like that. No one has questions. I don't know that we're going to dive into that. Not that it can't be changed at some point in the future, but. So the agenda will have to also be updated because we've added all of the classifications. And so those classifications will have to be.
And we need to change the rate back to a calculated, I guess, the calculated 26 pay rate at a 27 pay period. Because it will have to be additional appropriation. So, right, yeah.
So all of the hourly rates will be
At whatever we originally put in back in October when we did our first vote on it.
right.
And then there needs to be that extra week that we're paying, that was 25, but we're gonna pay it 6 rate for simplicity.
I think that was already done that year. Because
So I don't know if you have to list that in that paragraph without actually changing the whole thing.
I don't think that anything. So the addendum has all the 2026 hourly rates. And that's what everyone's going to get paid.
Chief meeting, once we go back and change. Like I said, they don't match now. Okay.
No, they're going to go back in and put the.
The original calculation.
Right, that's, yeah.
Sure, you have.
No, I mean, I'm gonna say, just for county general, it'll probably be less than 250,000.
Okay. So for all of the salary exemption, we'll have to change it. They have just the hourly rate. Well, changes, but we'll get there. Okay, so based upon all of those changes we just discussed, does someone want to make a motion to approve the amended salary ordinance with the changes we just walked through?
Before we do the approval, how are we gonna handle the back pay from the 2 checks that we've already issued.
Our office will pull every voucher from previous payrolls and calculate. So bear with us, please. Yes, sir. And before you vote on for changes, there's also something else that was brought to my attention, and I'm glad he's here. Director Kelly Sargent asked to take one of his full-time positions and turn it into a part-time position. He has got 2 dispatchers that are willing to work part-time. So if we could go ahead and kind of wrap that up, if you all are willing to do that.
Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion that we put it in part-time. Second. 2 part-time, right?
Part-time.
Is it 2 part-time? Part-time. No, part-time. Yeah, the way it is, I just want to do full-time. One actually left to go to another department where we make more money, and the other one is back to a different career field. And if they are willing, as they're going through training, to come back and work on part-time. All right, okay. Well, we got the motion and the second. All in favor of that, right? Yeah. Yes. 5 seconds. And it's passing in.
Okay, so now we are taking the motion to approve the amended salary ordinance with all of the revisions that we just talked through. Again, I will circulate both a clean copy and a red line copy. And if anyone feels like anything in that red line copy does not reflect exactly what we talked about in this meeting, we will not sign. We will bring it back to the public meeting to finalize. Right.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amended salary ordinance. I'll second. All right, all in favor, right here? Motion passes.
Do we need to vote on it though until she has the red line?
Just like he just said if there's any provisions.
It's so you can go ahead and sign it and implement it.
They can start paying. It'll be quicker if we go ahead.
Yes. Were you the second?
No. And all right.
That is not the last thing on our agenda today.
All right. For appointment for county park board, Rodney Code. Make the motion to approve Rodney. I'll second. Got that? All in favor, right hand? All opposed? Motion passed. All right. Appointment to the PTA BOA Evan Goodman. Have a motion to appoint him. And a second. So you're on second. All in favor, right hand? All opposed? All right. Motion passed. Fund fines. Reports. Department heads, any elected officials. Rick.
At the last council meeting, we discussed an additional appropriation for bridge projects. I don't know if you'll want to consider this our first or second period, which fine. Yeah. This additional request for $796,525. If you look on page 1 there, Franklin Bottom Bridge was $718,225. The additional request is that total. Below that, 361 Main Road, we had budgeted $300,000, but they came in at $378,300. We requested an additional $78,300. If I take page 2, there's a copy of the living bid to match the first total.
Page 3, that's the line where we budgeted the 300,000 for Bridge 61. Next page is the maintain the amount $378,300. And the final 2 pages will show the meeting minutes for both projects related and awarded. Those were the lowest bid. Yeah. The ones that we awarded. Everybody had a copy.
As of right now, the ULCF is not open for additional appropriation application on the gateway. So it will probably at least be, I want to say, April for that to
I think we will send the full data. All right. Do you have any other part heads?
Yes, sir. I just want to say on behalf of my sheriff's department and probably all the other county employees, I appreciate everybody coming together today to discuss this very important issue to all the county employees. There's a lot of it, but very important issue for everybody. I appreciate you guys making tough decisions and making it right for your county employees, and we appreciate that. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
One thing I just need to bring this before the commissioners is the countywide disaster. It's supposed to be filed with my office, and I just need the signature of Todd and the date correct Philip. This can be filed so that anything for part. Make sure there's any funds. I echo Chris. Accolades. Thank you all so much. It makes it easier on department heads. We all work together. This is a stressful time as far as my department will put on election that we haven't seen as many firings as we've had. We'll remind everyone who's interested in running for an office for the 2026 primary that its filing deadline is a hard deadline of noon on February 6th. That's rapidly approaching. One thing I would like to say when you all are working on that salary ordinance, and this is considered a loophole which could either trip us up or help you all, but State Board of Accounts had pointed out, and we just had discussed it at the prior meeting, Michelle brought it up as far as elected officials' pay cannot be changed once that ordinance is passed. But there was 4, we brought up 2 in the prior meeting, I looked into it, that there was 4 2026 salary ordinance sent out that had changed, and they weren't typos. It was literally changes to the rates. But your all signature sheet from the October 6th meeting was applied to that. So one thing that can help you all moving forward, in the salary ordinance that you all have just passed, is where you can, because of this loophole, change back the elected official's salary back. So then it cleans everything up and moves it forward. So that is a loophole that you all can use according to State Board of Accounts. Because it never actually voted on it, wasn't the typo as far as a clerical typo. So that's something that you all can amend to clean it up across the board instead of having to go back and change elected officials' salary back to what their approved rate was in 2026. Another question I had, just from my own standpoint, so my understanding, if you all had, because I know Lori Rogers and Stacey First State Board Accounts talk about actual hours worked and when they're worked. So if you all had that first paycheck of each year had the hours worked from the previous budget, and then you had the hourly rate from the current year, regardless of the pay date, this actual hours worked, wouldn't that have kept you on budget schedule for 26 pays? If you just kept
kept it on. I mean, I've worked since I was 13. I've never had this. I know it's not only, but all the way back into 22, the state at all the conferences was talking about preparing your budget for this to happen. And somehow we missed it, but if you all went from actual hours worked, that would keep you all from ever having to worry about it. And only that first pay period of every year would be the only one that would be at different rates depending on the day's work. So wouldn't that keep you all budgetary wise on track without having to take a lump sum and pay extra? And
That'll definitely be a discussion at budget time. If we want to change to 2 pays a month, we'll look at the best way to get everything taken care of. Thank you for mentioning that. Anyone else?
Mine's very easy, actually. I want to thank you guys for the new people. Not the coroner's office is really appreciated and much needed. But on that note, I have had some interest in the expedition of my buildings. I don't know how much it's worth, I don't know what the processes are, but people are wanting to buy it. So, can you guys give me some guidance on what steps I need to take to get that?
Commissioner, we need to open bids on those vehicles that we're going to consider obsolete or not used anymore for that expedition. Any possible, wasn't there trying to go to?
Yes, that's what
Yeah, those two would be something the commission would think open bids for. And anyone that would be interested to bid.
are you wanting to sell both of the SUVs or just the one?
I would prefer for now just the expedition. And I would like to look into getting a Durango license as a second vehicle if we have to take more of our team to a site. We can only ride 2 in the truck. So with the Durango would allow for us to take a second vehicle. But the tax is already been switched over, registration, everything to the truck, all of the Durangos. Right now, the Durango is not.
Is it the expedition?
Michelle, you know, that vision, since I've been in office, has never been back.
That still says something. Is that still?
So we switched that, you know.
How many occasions that you've had that you really would necessarily need that second vehicle?
Only 3. That would keep us from having to take our POVs as needed. Okay.
Okay. Any other department heads? Start with the commissioners who've been quiet. You guys have any additional comments, concerns? Bill? No, sir, thank you. Mr. Cardwell?
Very good thought.
Okay. April? Okay. Go around council. Work our way around. That's it.
Okay, I'm kind of sad on this, the highway department down here. Started out 4.8 and now I don't know much, probably 6.4. All these insufficiencies or inefficiencies, I don't know how we're going to correct them, but I've corrected other commissioners are. So the county taxpayers.
I browse through that. And I don't even have words because I'm so angry and disgruntled by it. And to me, it's a completely total waste of taxpayer dollars and nothing about the process followed to begin with. We should have never paid one single dime, and then to have all of these issues on top of it, what are we gonna do? Hire somebody else now to come back out there and fix everything that's screwed up, and how much is that gonna cost us? And the fact that we as a council were promised boots on the ground so that these kind of things wouldn't happen is completely and totally unacceptable. And we were promised that in a public meeting. I mean, like, I still voted no for the project, but everyone else voted yes, and they deserve correct answers. And I'm honestly appalled at the issues. This is way more than I ever thought it would be. And the fact that this has went by and the commissioners just let it go by and they signed off on these checks and they filled out these checks to pay this, is to me a gross incompetence. Is your job as taking that oath of office, and if that's the best you can do, you probably need to resign.
You have no idea what you're talking about. This is not over budget. It's totally ridiculous. You guys are fabricating things. There are.
An engineer looked at it, Todd.
I got.
Who was it said about a year and a half ago when we were presented some documentation and you said it was disgraceful? Where's the person's name? Where's the engineer's name? Where's it at? Where's it at? There are some change orders. We are within budget. So for you to sit there, Preston, and say 6.4.
behind the BOT is not to have change orders.
Read the contract. Did you not read the BOT contract?
It's not structured like a BOT, and from according to this, they're missing everything.
There are provisions for change orders. When has anybody in this?
When it was presented by we could not have change.
Please just remember, this is a professional public meeting. Okay, let's talk one at a time and not scream at each other. When has anyone in this room ever done any kind of a building project? I don't care if it's a deck on your back porch of your house, that there were not some changes. Our change orders amount to 1.33% of the total budget. Now, I think that's pretty darn good. We are within budget. As things progressed, we decided to change some things and tweak some things with some advice from our highway superintendent.
Bullshit.
Thank you.
I don't like nothing about it. No, don't throw my name in it, blow your face.
We have tried to do everything to.
Yeah, there's a whole lot out there I ain't happy about, so let's not drag me in it, or we're gonna be here a long time.
There are lots of things that everybody's, but this is what we've got. We're trying to stay under budget. And that's what we're trying to do. Your numbers are wrong.
No, they're not.
They're the same numbers that were presented in the commissioner meeting. It doesn't take Dick Tracy to add 2 and 2 to get 4.
I just got through telling you there are some change orders.
And I'm telling you that when Mr. Isaac was here, he told us that on a BOT, you cannot make changes, and any changes are at the cost of the developer.
Read the contract.
It's posted back there, Commissioner, for
Read the contract. There are opportunities for change.
This has squandered the county taxpayers' money. Plain and simple.
Andrew?
I just want to say that I appreciate Katelyn, that she left already, but obviously, I think she helped with what we did today. Without her, some of these questions would have been answered. And the reason why I reached out to her was just for that reason. I'm not a payroll specialist. The one in this room is. That's what she does. So, it's kind of like when you're sick, go to the doctor. Don't go through the drive to McDonald's and they can you know, see what's wrong with it. I reached out to a professional, and that's the reason for that.
There's a lot that I could say at this point. I really wish everybody would step back a little. We're all on the same team. There's no use of somebody raising their voice, and when you throw numbers out and call them facts, you be really careful and cautious about that. I understand there's an election coming up, and there'll be differences between those political venues that the opposing side is going to say this, the side that opposes them is going to say that. I understand we're in that particular arena right now. But folks, we need to use some common sense. And if we're all on the same team, we can disagree without being disagreeable. That's what I have to say.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you to the department heads and the employees. I mean, for bringing this shortfall to us. Our job is to watch the taxpayers' money, but it's also to take care of the employees. And you guys have been working to minimize overtime, to keep that to a minimum, and I appreciate that. And I hope this takes care of you guys. I don't want you being shorted for hours you're working, so I hope this reconciles all that. And thank you for showing up. Thank you. And thanks for your work.
Eric?
Michelle?
I don't have anything else to add to this.
Okay. I just want to finish up with, I am glad this council could come together and, it's what we are the ones that did it. So I think that's good and it's the right thing to do. Also, I just want to, on a personal note, regardless of what side you are on an issue, we are supposed to be working together. Amen. Taxpayers, elected people to work together. You can disagree. You can be on a separate side of the issue. But I think that every single person, every taxpayer, every voter, anybody watching should hold every single one of us accountable. Not just the ones you agree with, on how we talk to each other and how we act in a public meeting. That's just my opinion. You can disagree with me, may like me or not, but if you're going to hold me to a certain standard in how I talk to people, other elected officials, it should be the same for the ones that are in your camp, so to speak. That's what the people who elected us expect from us. And I think that today is a good example of just because you choose to shout doesn't make you right. We've got to work together, period, whichever side of the issue you're on. And it brings up, this has gone on long enough. It's time we all, the adults, treat each other with respect. You can respectfully disagree. Just shouting at somebody and calling them dishonest, that's absolutely not the way to work together. A good example of that is we came together. But in the past few weeks, we've had people that have hurled personal insults toward elected officials that they don't like. But elected officials that they're doing the exact same thing, they get a pass. Let's all be professional and do what our voters and taxpayers expect us to do. Work together, do our jobs, and do it with respect. I'm one of 7 on this group, and that's my opinion. And again, I'm glad that we did what is right for our county employees, and I thank all of the county employees for what they do. And I do appreciate feedback that I've gotten over the last few weeks from people that I agree with and disagree. That's what it's all about. So, sorry. I'd like to give a shout out to the highway department. At least in my part of the county, you guys did a great job clearing the roads. It was a big snowstorm, and so you guys did a great job.
You've done a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
off, I would take a motion to adjourn. So we'll have a question. So moved. Second? All right. All in favor, strike it. Motion passes. Bill? Motion to adjourn. Second. Thank you all.